Today we're going to talk about foster matchmaking, and I went a little haywire with the theme when at 8 o'clock last night I realized it was a matchmaking presentation happening on Valentine's Day. So if I get carried away with metaphors or kind of get off a little bit into the weeds, feel free to unmute yourself and rein me back in because I got very excited. So a little bit about me. I started my animal welfare journey as a foster caregiver in 2017 for Ventura County Animal Services. And after about a year of fostering behavior and long stay dogs, I went kind of bananas with it, needed to dedicate my life to it. So when a dog foster position opened up in Tucson at Pima Animal Care Center, I applied like 5 times and harassed everyone I knew until I got it. So I spent 2 years-ish building the big dog foster program at PAC. And then in 2020, I moved on to become the urgent dog case manager at PAC, which was more niche, a smaller pool of behavioral needs dogs. So I've seen foster placement from a few different angles as caregiver, in a position where I'm placing like mass amounts of dogs quickly, and in a position where I'm placing like special needs dogs and able to maybe spend a little bit more time with it. Okay, so this is where it gets exciting. So realistically, if you're over a foster program, you're probably strapped for time and doing a million other things. So you don't have to be all of these things, but I feel that all of these things are essential components in proper foster matchmaking or efficient foster matchmaking. So there's the publicist who lets the world know that you have a foster program so that people come in and foster dogs, and or they market individual dogs specifically. The matchmaker harvests all of the information that they can about their prospective clients and uses solid judgment when making matches. The wingman is there to set the scene, maybe massage things a little bit. So these two individuals who maybe you know are a perfect match fall in love a little bit easier. And then the couples counselor, post-placement support, because moving in together is weird and the new couple may need some guidance in navigating it. Me and Kelly, I think, both have like a number of presentations on marketing and post-placement support. So this one's going to focus more specifically on matchmaking and being a good wingman for the dogs you're trying to place. So the publicist, just a brief overview on the publicist, posts internally and externally about foster opportunities and dogs in need of foster. They stick to marketing. The role is marketing and just helping this dog put their best paw forward. Not adoption counseling. That's going to fall under the matchmaker and wingman. And publicists are important because dogs often are not their best advocates, and a good match might see this dog and not realize they were made for each other. Lulu was such a drama queen. And I watched you open it. She's like, I was just kidding. But yeah, someone walking by is not going to realize that's who's actually in the kennel. So good publicity, really important. And then I just thought this fit the theme, but I don't actually have anything additional to say about it other than someone needs to bring this back and make these for shelter dogs with human voiceovers.
Things I love are photography, travel, skiing, and cuddling.
That's all.
Some of the things I love.
Matchmaking. I also apologize to people who didn't grow up as chronically online millennials, so maybe they're not like on board with all of these memes, but I think they still work okay. So a lot of dogs are compatible with a lot of people, so it may not always be an instance of needing to find the exact perfect dog for the exact perfect person, but being a thorough matchmaker is still really important in foster specifically, for a few reasons. One being liability. Your organization still owns the dog, so if there are issues, it's going to be a bigger deal for you. Fosters are providing us a free service, so they deserve our full attention, and for us to work to give them the best experience possible. We want them to come back. And bad matches in foster mean a lot more work for a chronically understaffed department. As matchmaker, you want to collect a lot of information, but you want to collect it not to pass-fail people. Like, okay, you can foster, you can't. It's going to be more of like a guide of which dogs would be a better fit for you, and maybe where do you need some more counseling to make this work. Pass-fail adoption and foster applications scare a lot of really good people away from the movement. I've seen in a number of online forums people talking about a bad instance of just being denied by a rescue or shelter organization, and so going to a breeder. I think this is an area where we have improved a lot nationally, but still definitely needs attention because people are still talking about it. There are a few rules of thumb that I usually stick to, my own personal biases and paranoia. If we're looking at a multivariable household with like dogs and cats, or dogs and cats and kids, or kids and cats, and we have a dog that we don't know that much about, I'm not going to place that dog in a household with a bunch of unknowns. So I'll place that dog if the dog has a known positive history with those variables, or maybe we don't have all the information about them, but they like maybe need medical crate rest or something. So it's kind of easier to sequester and navigate, or if they're a small dog and it's just way lower risk. Or if the foster is a return foster and we know each other a little bit better, kind of know what that foster's rhythm is, what they can comfortably take on, then oftentimes I'm much more comfortable opening that door. But anytime I'm pairing a dog with unknowns, I try to limit it to one unknown and then just counsel extensively, make sure that person knows where to go for resources or if they need help or what comes up. So in information collection, you are going to talk to a lot of people who maybe right out the gate don't volunteer very helpful things about themselves to help you make the best match. So here's some examples, like the vague opener. People might just say directly to you or email you or text you, I'm interested in this dog. When can I meet him? How much? That's a personal favorite. So what I've seen a number of people do in this circumstance is just kind of say, here is all of this dog's baggage. Do you still want them? You don't have to do that. What you can do is say, thank you so much for asking about Bessie. What are you looking for in a dog? So this politely acknowledges their interest while also putting the onus on them to lay out whether or not they may be a match for this specific dog. And you potentially don't have to waste a bunch of energy typing up an essay of what the dog needs if right off the bat you're like, oh, it's not a match, but maybe you want to meet this dog instead. As matchmaker, ideally, you would just know all the dogs and all the things about the dogs and what the best home setup and people would be for this dog. Not super realistic, but there are ways to make accessing that information much faster and easier for you, so you don't have to spend like 6 hours going through your shelter database looking for a match for this one person that emailed you what they're looking for. So Trello was one of the ways that I kind of organized all the dogs I was looking to place in foster. And it was really helpful for both me as the coordinator and the public. So like people at home interested in foster could just access with a link the dogs we're specifically looking to place in foster. Their behavior notes are uploaded here, and there's a link to schedule an appointment. If they just click on a dog card, read about them, say, I think that dog will fit my home, schedule an appointment, and then they come in. In fact, I'll pull this up before we're done talking about it. And a Trello board can be a lot to get started up if you have a lot of dogs that you're looking to place. But if you can see up at the top where it says like has the initials and then the +11, you can grant access to like volunteers or other staff members who are maybe willing to work on this with you. There were a number of volunteers that were happy to help me with this because they were so passionate about the dogs that we were placing. I believe I also have a how to update the Trello board that I can find and send out. But this was a really, really helpful quick reference. Oh, wait, okay, I've got the link. This Trello board, I don't think is active anymore. Can you see me changing the website or is it stuck on the PowerPoint?
I can see the Trello.
Okay, okay, so like someone might see Bessie online. If you have editing access, you can just write her little profile here. This is her web profile. Instructions, foster application, dog foster. Her notes, you can just upload right here. So fosters can potentially counsel themselves. And it's nice just having a quick reference for yourself, because maybe you won't think of the perfect match off the top of your head, but you just need like a little memory jog when you look at the board. Okay. We were very lucky to both have Chameleon and Joshua Fritz in IT, who now works at Chameleon because he's so good at Chameleon. But something he made possible for us was flagging dogs with certain personality traits or certain previous positive histories that adopters and fosters might be interested in or that they're looking for specifically. So on the public side, these flags like housebroke, social leash, we enter these in Chameleon for our dogs individually. They populate on the website and on kennel cards. So for the public, it's a really quick way to discern both in person and online. And what we could also do with this information was Chameleon was Josh made us another report that pulled these flags and was really sortable. So I think we called it the matchmaking report, but it was sorted by, well, it was an Excel spreadsheet, so you could sort it however you wanted. But the information it included was length of stay, handling level, like how easy is this dog to handle. We have a dot system at pack, which is like green through purple. So for a first timer, maybe we'd look for a green dog with maybe no bite on its record, but I mean, every circumstance is different. And then it would populate these profile icons. So if we knew someone had kids and other dogs, we could just immediately scan or search for dogs with those qualities. And that was really, really helpful for both appointment matchmaking and walk-in matchmaking. I would often just print that report at the beginning of the day and like keep it on my desk. Sorry, that's my water bottle. And then since that is a lot of information, well, one, if you have Chameleon and you want to get this going but don't know where to start, support@chameleonbeach.com. That will probably kick you to Josh because I'm still making my presentations his problem. He'll probably be expecting you because I think he knows I'm presenting today. So this is something you do want to institute, you don't know where to start, I would just email Chameleon directly. Their IT is excellent. As far as learning enough about the dogs and then inputting all of that information in mass into their individual profiles, that is that's a lot of work and likely not feasible for one person unless you're dedicating an entire day to it. So we printed out our matchmaking report or long stay report and then just copy and pasted it into this Google sheet. These drop downs have different options. Let me find it actually. I'm going to show you. But it's a Google sheet, which means you can make it editable by anyone via the link. So a volunteer had the brilliant idea to put all of our long stay dogs in a Google Sheet and then give volunteers access to it, because they know the dogs better than anyone. They're the one handling them every day, more often than not. Volunteers get access it, just identify a dog that they know well, populate the icons there, and then staff, whenever staff had a minute, could just open up the spreadsheet and start updating dogs from the top down. And then in this column on the right, if all the current icons were updated, they say updated in Chameleon. If a volunteer added some more that need to be updated, they would change it to I added some. But I am going to find this spreadsheet for you so we can interact with it. So volunteers really want to help, and they're very passionate about the dogs. They know the dogs, but we just need to make it easier for them to do so. If we make it like a really labor-intensive process, maybe they'll feel like their time could be better spent elsewhere. But if it's immediately accessible and pretty straightforward. Okay, here it is. So this is the spreadsheet. They're still using it. Yeah, last update was an hour ago. This was originally made in like May of last year. So the drop downs is just a really easy formula. You can populate whatever you want in here. Quick directions up top. I added some. And there's a formula that changes. I added some to red, so it just kind of pops out. Anyone who's interested, oh my God, wait, did I just run their spreadsheet? No, it was like that. Okay. So anyone who's interested in kind of how to set this up, I'm happy to talk about it or show you at the end of the presentation if we want to revisit it. As far as appointment scheduling appointments is a great opportunity to collect information in advance. Sorry if you can hear my dog, she's on one today. So there are a few questions I always ask in the form. That's going to be like, do you have other dogs? If so, I'm closing my door. Do you have other dogs? If so, how big are they? If it's small dogs, some dogs that might trigger their prey drive, maybe not. What are their dog histories? Most fosters that would bring dogs in to do meet and greets with a potential foster dog know their dog really well, and oftentimes their dog has had no issues with other dogs. But we would get some people that wanted to use a foster dog as like a tester dog for their dog because they didn't know how their dog would do in the home. Those ones were a hard no for me usually, because like your dog can have quirks and we can still find a good match for it. But if you don't know your dog, that's two unknown high risk variables potentially. It was always really important to me that the owner knew their dog very well. Always asking about cats and pocket pets, kids, what are their ages and what is their specific history with animals? Some 8-year-olds are phenomenal and gentle and great with animals. Others haven't really developed the toolkit to know what is and isn't appropriate when interacting with them. So I wouldn't use kids as just like a no way right off the gate, unless the dog had like a known problematic history, but always a factor. I would also always ask them if they were comfortable with bully breeds. Your mileage may vary with this one, but I would ask that. I mean, one, because I want to place all the bully breeds in the world, because some people are a hard no, and if they click no, it's a non-negotiable. But I would leave the kind of door open for like a maybe or an I'm not sure, because that would tell me that they could be open to it as long as they're not intimidated by the dog. Most of the time, that's what that meant. So if I had a really wiggly, cute, sociable pit in the office when they came in, it was almost like a no-brainer. But committing to a yes could be scary for someone who's not sure. I vastly preferred appointment-based foster matchmaking. One, because I hate surprises. And two, it just gives me more time to be prepared, but how this would typically work is the foster would schedule an appointment online. I would review all of their details, ask clarifying questions that would kind of maybe give me a better idea of what they're looking for, who'd be a good match. It would also give me an opportunity to redirect them to different apartments if what they were looking for was more like actually adoption or medical foster. So I wouldn't have to like waste their time and confuse them before they arrived. And then we'd confirm the appointment. So before the appointment, I take that information to maybe find 2 to 3 potential matches for them using Trello, the matchmaking report, or just staff and volunteer suggestions. I would prepare their supplies, and then I would pick my favorite dog to send out with them, get them out maybe like 30 minutes to an hour before the appointment, so they had some decompression time, could show really well. And then when that foster walked in, that dog was just like rested and ready to go and able to put on their best face. I sent out maybe a majority, at least 50% of my dogs by just having an office dog that the foster walked into. And a few adoptions that way too. So I love having that advance notice so you can do something like that. And then sometimes they'll come in already with dogs they know they want to meet. That's great too. And you'll have that information on the appointment form that they filled out, and it can make the matchmaking process way easier for you, and you can whittle that down before they come in as well. For walk-ins, it would work pretty much the same way as appointments unless you were already busy. We did both in tandem. We did appointments and walk-ins for foster, and we got a lot of dogs out that way. But walk-ins would run into me in the middle of an appointment sometimes, and we never wanted them to leave empty-handed or frustrated or confused. So we would just kind of give them homework so that they could brush up on some things and maybe come back a little bit more informed in like 20 minutes or whenever I'm done with the appointment. So we had a QR code that took them to just the foster onboarding link tree. These are the steps. Submit an application, sign the foster care agreement, and we wouldn't mandate that everyone had to complete all of these things at their appointment. They just needed to get done somewhere along the way. The foster care agreement, definitely for liability purposes, they need to sign that before they go. This is the Trello board, view pets in need of foster, so they could kind of do some self-serve shopping. This is an online orientation that is maybe like 30 to 45 minutes. Foster care agreement, application. And then PAC uses Waitwhile, which has a queuing system as well as an appointment system. So if they're just waiting until the appointment was done, they could just jump in the queue and you'd have their contact information to like text them or call them when you were ready for them if they were out walking around the facility. So the wingman is there to help everything go smoothly, because 2 personalities can be compatible, but if the setting isn't right, they may not fall in love. The wingman's job is to help show them that they actually belong together. Barriers to potentially blossoming love: poor counseling and the client not showing very well. And that can be either the dog or the person. So we're going to talk about both of those things independent of each other. Poor counseling, I have a lot to say about this. I also have a PDF we're going to visit, but the number of times I have heard, "Are you okay with a dog who bites?" Spoken to someone who just asked about a dog they saw on the website makes my skin crawl a little bit, because context and severity are always relevant and often entirely insignificant in a fitting home environment. A resource guarding bite versus a redirect bite versus a fear bite are worlds apart. So I always discuss the behavior and then the bite in context. I do not lead with a bite announcement because understanding the why of a behavior and bite first will remove a lot of the shock that just comes with this dog bites. Someone who doesn't know the dog is going to make a lot of assumptions about that dog if that's the first thing they hear. As far as counseling, let me bring this up real quick. I can put this in the chat too. I made an adoption counseling PDF that's just kind of like more helpful ways or less intimidating ways to word things. direct question. We talked about that a little bit. So positive known history, that's an easy one. Dogs with a negative history, if you're going to need to do some steering, she's been behaviorally incompatible with blank dogs, cats, kids in the past, so we wouldn't recommend her for a home with them. What else are you looking for in a dog? Perhaps I can make some alternate suggestions. So it's not like no, this is done, sorry. It's like, well, maybe not, but we can still help you. So they're still having a positive experience and you're still potentially getting dogs out. If she has mixed notes, something like she might be behaviorally compatible with blank, but we can't say for sure. She has felt differently in different situations. So if you were seriously considering her, I'd recommend meeting her a couple times and having a plan for initial separation and slow introductions over time. What else are you looking for in a dog? If you decide she's not a fit, maybe I can make some alternate suggestions. So again, not a hard no. It kind of tells them that there might be a little bit of work up front without sounding terrifying. If we don't know, she arrived as a stray or with limited notes, so we don't really know. I or staff would be happy to discuss what a safe, slow introduction in the home might look like if you're interested in meeting her. What else are you looking for in a dog? Leaves the door open, doesn't sound scary, kind of lets them know right off the bat, maybe there's something needed to work on, and they can decide if they want to move further or not. Disclosing difficult information. Less than promising behavior around other animals, has a history of making poor choices around other dogs or animals, so we wouldn't really recommend him for a home with them. Killed a dog, that's a really rough one. Oftentimes these dogs aren't placed, but if you do need to have that discussion, you can use a phrase like fatal altercation with another dog, had a serious fight with another dog and the other dog didn't make it. Cat or pocket pet, fatal incident with a cat or pocket pet due to prey drive likely. So I'll post this in the chat for you to kind of peruse it. Just softer ways to say hard things. The wingman also is going to help the dog show best, and that could be different for different dogs. So if I had a dog that I knew that I had a potentially really good match for, and I just wanted to make sure they hit it off, I would do a deep dive in their behavior notes and talk to anyone who I knew the dog and loved the dog about what setting they're going to show best in. This is Ursula with two of her boys. She is the wingman of wingmen. Anytime that I was going to place a dog she was in love with, she'd come in like an hour before the appointment and just take him for a run or help him play ball. She'd always let me know like what room they liked best, what toy they liked best, what treats they liked best. I love Ursula so much. And that's all I have to say about that. But I mean, you know that a dog walking out of the kennel straight into a meet and greet room maybe isn't always gonna go great because they're like wired off energy. So maybe they're just like really frantic, jumpy. Maybe they're just smelling around and really distracted. So the foster has convinced themselves that the dog isn't interested in them. Any chance to get their willies out in advance, I found is very, very helpful. And then there's the extra special dogs who need to wear muzzles in meet and greets at the shelter because they have stranger danger and don't want anyone they don't know getting close to them. So Lulu, we would just do like, I love parallel dog walks as introduction for dogs. I also love it for people when the dog isn't sure of people. So Lulu, we did, she was very special. So we did her meets over a progression of time. First two were just like parallel walks around the facility, and maybe they'd ask her to do some basic obedience, and then they wouldn't even hand her the treat, they'd just toss it to her. And then when she got more comfortable with that, they lived down the street, so I would just drive Lulu to their house, and we did this a couple times at their house. And then they did a sleepover. Lulu was comfortable with them at that time, and they just kept her from there. So we don't have to be married to the just take a dog out of a kennel and go to a meet and greet room. A lot of dogs are not going to show well. This is a quick 4-minute video. Kelly, do we have time for this one? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So your humans are also going to need some briefing on how to show well on this date. This is a quick little video I made about just kind of like what I would brief the humans on.
Once you introduce enough people to enough dogs, you eventually develop
Can you hear that?
don't do that.
Can you hear that, or is that quiet?
If you can turn it up, it'd be good. I can hear it, but it's not super loud.
Okay.
reflexes. Some individuals develop really healthy don't do that reflexes. And other individuals kind of sandwich theirs, which mean hand slapping and guttural panic noises. This video is largely a compilation of things that trigger my don't do that reflex. There's a tendency to greet shelter dogs with an assumption of how they want to be greeted based on past experiences with relaxed dogs in a home environment. Something very important to remember about shelter dogs, though, is that they're on average 2 to 3 times more stressed than dogs living at home, and many are even more stressed than that. The absolute hands down best thing you can do to have comfortable and successful interactions with all dogs, but especially shelter dogs, is to familiarize yourself with dog body language and how they may be interpreting your own. But that video is for another time, because today we're just going to talk about the straight do's and don'ts of meeting a dog at the animal shelter. Do sit on a chair or a bench. It'll make yourself smaller and therefore less intimidating to them without putting you directly at their eye line. Do not put your face in their face. We all want to do it. We shouldn't do it. It's just too intimate to start off with for most dogs. Do angle your body slightly away from them instead of facing them head on. This is another way to make you less intimidating. Do not hold extended direct eye contact with them. This can be perceived as very threatening and scary. It is very different when you already know and have a positive relationship with a dog. It's a red zone with new dogs, though. Do leave a hand out for them to smell. And I say leave a hand out instead of reach a hand out, because leaving your hand out is less intimidating than having a stranger reach directly at you. Do not reach or bend over their head. They don't know you and they can't see what's happening up here. Don't do it. Do follow their lead. Unless staff has instructed you otherwise, if the dog is asking you to pet them, go for it. If they're really headbutting you in the leg and wiggling at you, go ahead and get in there. And if they're hesitantly grazing your leg, maybe lightly sweep your hand against their side. Do not crowd them. This could look like a lot of things, including but not limited to hugging them or backing them into a corner. They should always feel like they have the option of an easy escape. Do let them approach you, not the other way around. It's very normal for a dog to enter a play yard with an interested party and then spend the next 10 minutes smelling the yard and ignoring them. It's not personal. Dogs just see the world through their nose, and they're going from being cooped up in a kennel to a yard exploding with smells. Let them smell. They'll wrap it up eventually. It doesn't mean they don't want to interact with you. Do not make quick movements or loud noises. Those loud noises can definitely include your speaking voice. A stressed, scared, or anxious dog is much quicker to startle than a relaxed one. Do speak softly. There is no shame in the baby voice game. Do not force them to interact with you in any way. This could look like reeling them in on a leash or following them around the yard and touching them. If they want to interact with you, they'll do it. There are ways to coax out a willing interaction, but it should never be forced. It'll be hard, but keep those initial pets short. They still need to know that it's their choice to be engaging. So pet them, remove your hands, and then let them decide to re-engage with you or not. Most will be like, yes, let's go, come on. But in doing this, you're letting them know this interaction is dictated by what they want, so they'll feel naturally more comfortable with you. In keeping these initial pets short, you are also avoiding overstimulating them, which is very easy to do with a stressed dog. Overstimulation could look like an extended pet session turning a wiggly dog into a really jumpy mouthy dog. Do offer treats or toys depending on what motivates them. You could leave a treat in your hand for them to explore or toss it gently toward them if they're not approaching. If they're into basic obedience, maybe ask for a sit and then offer it. If they like toys, throwing the ball can be a really fun first interaction for them. Think of these as like first date tips. You don't know each other, so you're just trying to make a really good first impression and prove to them that you're not an axe murderer, or worse, someone that calls people on the phone to have casual conversations. And just like people in your own life, the more you get to know each other, the less they'll be scared off when you loosen the reins on things like maintaining eye contact or farting on the couch. So good luck out there and go meet your new best friend. Once you introduce people to know.
So yeah, am I muted? No, I'm not. So I think it's equally important to brief both your parties for that initial interaction. The last one is couples counselor, which we'll keep super short. But it's just the post-placement support. There will very likely be things that come up during the decompression phase, especially for first-time fosters. That doesn't mean that they're not a match. Maybe they just need to work through something while they get to know each other, and the foster just needs to know that you or someone is there for them. The information is accessible to them and they can get help if they need it. Just that knowledge can assuage a lot of fear and uncertainty. Some just easy shortcuts for post-placement support. Does the dog have an advocate? Here is Ursula again with one of her boys. Every dog that gets fostered or adopted out that Ursula loves, they get a free Ursula. She will do anything for them. So any foster has her cell phone and email. I don't recommend that a lot of people give out all of their personal information, but Ursula doesn't care. She will be at that house at a drop of a hat. She'll help them with anything. She loves her dogs. She will die for them. Alternatively, you can have a foster resource page, which is just a quick website with all of the information and links they may need immediate access to. I love Linktree for foster resource pages because it is both mobile and desktop friendly, and they're just really easy URLs to remember. This is the one PAC has currently. Contact info for all the foster coordinators, link to their master resource page, links to meet or return a foster pet, the foster Facebook group where we share information, photos, ask questions, medication refill requests, scheduling a telemed appointment, and so much more. It's so nice to just have all of that in one place for fosters. Types of daters. So all of this is about tailoring the situation to your individuals. So different circumstances you should maybe treat differently depending on where your new foster is coming from. So first round, we have our speed daters, which I'm going to classify as walk-ins and first timers. As a general rule, I always start out first timers with very easy dogs. And easy doesn't mean perfect. It just means how easily is this dog going to fit into their lifestyle, even if they have all the behavior experience in the world. Is it going to be easy for that dog to just go into the house and be? This was Louis. He was not perfect. He did quickly become the love of my life, though. He was my first foster, and he is the reason I'm doing this today, is because it was such a positive and beautiful experience with him. He did not like dogs. He was a senior and he'd been at the shelter for like a year and a half. We had the most amazing foster experience with him. And he was adopted, I think, after just 2 weeks in a foster home because he got a chance to like be himself outside of a shelter environment. But the first dog is the one that gets fosters to keep coming back. So really just navigating that pairing is crucially important. Your first time fosters are also probably going to be your neediest because new things are scary. I was texting Sarah, who was my foster coordinator at the time, now the director of Santa Barbara County Animal Services, about Louie's poop cycle for like the first week. And she was so nice to me about it, even though in retrospect, it was so incredibly unnecessary. But knowing she was there for me was very, very, very helpful. And keeping me coming back as a foster. Wingman, just get them excited while still setting expectations. Counseling does still need to be thorough, especially if they're a first timer. Serial daters, that came out sounding a lot creepier than I intended it, but they're my favorite. There are repeat fosters, typically way lower maintenance than your first timers because they've been through the system, they've been through the decompression phase, and you have an established relationship now. So if they come back after a really positive first foster experience, you have likely unliked blind dates, which is my favorite way to send out fosters is just, I'm talking to a foster I have a relationship with. They say they're going to be in at 2 p.m. I already know what they're like. I pick out a dog for them. They trust me. They walk in. I hand them the dog. They leave. This is Marilyn and John, who were two of my favorite repeat fosters. They started with Cool Breaker was one of the first ones here on the left. And then 20 long stay behavior dogs later, they adopted Jackie on the right. And they just came back. So we knew each other, and making those pairs was really, really easy. So really, I know Kelly has a lot of good presentations on just like making sure you give your fosters the VIP experience so they want to keep coming back. It makes it easier for everyone. What is also really important with your repeat fosters is that you are keeping tabs on their potential burnout in a way. A lot of fosters come in and they want to save the world, and they can, but maybe they'll push themselves a little bit further than they need to. And they don't know burnout's on the horizon, but you've been doing this a minute, so you can see it coming from a mile away. If they have a particularly bad or exhausting experience with a dog or a few dogs, and they just want to take another really, really challenging one, I will often just give them a really easy breather dog, or ask them if they feel like they need to just maybe like sit a minute and breathe. I chose this picture of Zeus, who was later named Toby, who was later named Harley, because he was one of my hardest placements when I was a foster caregiver. I didn't know what a Malinois mix was. He was that, and he acted very Malinois-y. So after him, I asked Sarah, I was like, can I just get an easy dog? This hurts for me. I need a breather. So she did give me an easy dog who turned out to be a surprise hospice foster. And then I needed a real break after that one. So just really considering where your fosters are at emotionally and kind of making them help choices that are a little bit difficult for them to make for themselves as far as next placements. Specialty daters, behavior foster. I love my behavior foster. A lot of my behavior fosters were also serial daters. Things that never really factored into the matchmaking process here was age. John and Marilyn fostered 20 behavior long stay big dogs, and they were in their 70s and 80s. Money, self-explanatory. Yards, I'm at the point where I almost prefer people don't have yards, because when they have yards, they leave dogs in yards and then dogs jump out of yards. And if they don't have a yard, they're also spending more time with their foster on average. And then experience, and I don't mean the experience that comes from like a developed relationship with your fosters where you just kind of know each other, know what your tolerance levels are. I mean like new fosters that come in and say they have experience, so you pair them with a difficult dog. It could be good experience. It could also be the wrong kind of experience. And they may also not know what they don't know. So you still have to take that counseling really, really seriously. This is where we get off into my own personal developed biases and what I start to just kind of like reflexively look for when I'm talking to a foster who's going to take a behavioral needs dog. And this is entirely conversation-based things that come up. So I look for kind of a no-brainer, active listening during adoption counseling. Even if they do know everything about animal behavior, they don't know this animal yet. So if they're looking around the room while I'm talking, tapping their foot, checking their phone, giving me nothing besides yes, no, it feels like they're maybe not taking it seriously, and they need to. People that ask a lot of questions, it tells me that they're thinking about things. So if they're asking questions about like the animal, their history, their behaviors, how to work with behaviors, supplies, recommended vets or trainers, any and all of those are green flags. And honestly, the more questions, the better I feel about it. I don't feel like someone needs to come in with all of the answers in order for me to pair them with the behavioral needs dogs. I prefer that they ask questions because it shows me, I mean, one, they're listening, engaged, thinking about it, humble enough to receive and apply advice from someone else. I love fosters that ask questions. They're not super impulsive about it. And same day fosters for behavior dogs, totally doable. But what I'm talking about is the people that kind of like come in with stars in their eyes because they're in love with a dog that they don't know that they saw on the website, and you're kind of trying to counsel them about the dog, but they're in love and they just want to take it home. Home is a different reality than a short interaction at the shelter and a photo on the website. So the starry eyes it was meant to be fosters are like, they're wonderful. Love how excited they are. More comfortable pairing them with dogs that I know aren't going to give them a super hard time if they're a new foster. If they're a repeat foster and I know them, that's just how they are, different story. But I'm paranoid and I always proceed with caution. So I really look forward to foster meets that are not particularly exciting a lot of the time. My own paranoia. Shenanigan tolerance. This is Morgan and one of my hardest to place dogs, Ghost. I'm having breakfast with Morgan this week. I knew she had a high shenanigan tolerance when I was talking to her about Ghost, and she casually mentioned the months that she spent all night crying, trying to figure out how to help her current dog, Balto, who is today very well behaved and sociable. It means shenanigans aren't a deal breaker, which is a green flag to me. And it also tells me that they see difficulties as something to work through in general. I mean, some people just know their hard stops, and that's great. People should absolutely know their limits. For behavior dogs, I am going to look for people with a little bit more leeway and interest in working through things. And they reach out for help, or they are resourceful in getting help. So it could be just like a history of YouTubing how to work on certain behaviors. It could be Google. It could be a history of reaching out to people or finding different trainers. No one is an island, and I feel like people that try to do this solo are less likely to succeed when it's a particularly challenging dog.